Ma'am, step away from those children. Now. Rachel Morrison looked up from the hot chocolate she was sharing with two 7-year-old girls who'd walked into the cafe 15 minutes ago. The Child Protective Services officer blocking the exit had that look Rachel knew well from her 5 years as a civil rights attorney. Automatic authority mixed with instant judgment reserved for people who didn't fit the expected profile. Excuse me. Rachel frowned. Anonymous call about a white woman attempting to remove 2 black children from a public establishment. Officer Thompson, badge gleaming, crossed her arms. Are these girls with you voluntarily? Before Rachel could answer, Maya, the more outspoken twin, jumped from her chair. Miss Rachel isn't taking us anywhere. We came to her. And we called Mrs. Henderson to bring us. Sophie, the quieter sister, pointed through the window at an elderly woman in a blue sedan, watching with growing concern. Rachel felt ice slide down her spine. This wasn't a misunderstanding. Someone had called deliberately to create this scene. And she had a very clear suspicion of who. 30 minutes earlier, Rachel sat alone checking her phone for the 10th time. James Mitchell was late for the blind date his sister, her college best friend, had insisted on arranging. She was about to leave when 2 girls entered, hands clasped, determination in their eyes. Are you Miss Rachel? Maya had asked with disproportionate seriousness. I am. And you are? Maya and Sophie. Our daddy says he's sorry he's late. Rachel's heart melted instantly. James was a widower, his sister mentioned, raising the twins alone after his wife died in a car accident 3 years ago. But she hadn't mentioned the girls were black, or that James was too. Not that it mattered to Rachel, but apparently it mattered to someone. Daddy had a court emergency, Sophie explained softly. He's a public defender. One of his clients was going to be deported today if he didn't show up. We heard him on the phone last night, Maya continued, lowering her voice. He was so excited about today. He wrote it on the calendar with 3 hearts. Rachel smiled. 3 hearts. 1 for each of us, Sophie said proudly. Daddy always says we're a team. They told her how they convinced Mrs. Henderson to bring them, how they didn't want Miss Rachel to think their father forgot, how he'd practiced what to say in the mirror the night before. He tried 4 different shirts, Maya revealed with a grin. They all looked the same to us. Rachel ordered hot chocolate, and for 15 minutes heard stories about a man who learned to style natural hair watching tutorials until midnight, who made star-shaped pancakes on Saturdays, who never missed a school presentation even when it meant running from court still in his suit. And then Agent Thompson appeared. Girls, do you know this woman? Thompson asked, professional voice tinged with suspicion. She's Daddy's friend. Maya protested. They were going to have a date. She's kind, Sophie added quietly. Not like that other lady. Rachel caught that immediately. What other lady? The twins exchanged a glance, that silent communication only close sisters share. Maya opened her mouth, but stopped when the cafe door burst open. James Mitchell entered like a hurricane, suit wrinkled, tie loose, absolute terror on his face. His eyes found his daughters first, then Rachel, finally the agent. Rachel saw the exact moment he understood the situation, that flash of recognition followed by something like deep exhaustion. Daddy. The girls ran to him. He hugged them but never took his eyes off Thompson. Agent. What a surprise finding you here. Someone called you, I imagine. Mr. Mitchell. Thompson didn't seem surprised to know him. We received an anonymous report of attempted kidnapping. Attempted kidnapping, James repeated, voice dangerously calm. Of my own daughters. Who were with Mrs. Henderson, my trusted neighbor, coming to meet a family friend at a public cafe. That's attempted kidnapping now. Protocol requires we investigate all reports involving minors. Of course it does. James released the girls and stepped forward. Just like protocol required you to show up at my house 3 times last month, always unannounced, always with anonymous concerns about my daughter's welfare. Concerns that never proved true. Rachel's blood boiled. 3 unannounced visits in 1 month wasn't standard protocol. It was harassment. If you have complaints about procedures, Mr. Mitchell, you can file them formally. Oh, I'll be filing much more than that. James pulled out his phone. Rachel, you still work discrimination cases in public services? Only then did Rachel fully understand. He knew who she was. This wasn't just a blind date, he'd specifically asked to meet her. And suddenly everything made sense. A black public defender being targeted by Child Protective Services, constant anonymous concerns, and now a kidnapping call the exact moment his daughters were with a white woman in public. Yes, Rachel answered, voice firm. Specialty of the house. Thompson lost some color. Mr. Mitchell, nobody's accusing you of anything. Not yet, James corrected. But someone's trying very hard to build a case, aren't they? Anonymous calls. Surprise visits. Documentation of incidents that never happened. Almost like someone wants to create a pattern of neglect where none exists. Sophie tugged her father's sleeve. Daddy, it's her. The mean lady who came to our house. Maya nodded vigorously. The one who said our house was inadequate, because you worked too much. Rachel saw Thompson stiffen. Girls, you shouldn't discuss ongoing investigations. There is no ongoing investigation, James said coldly. There's a harassment campaign being conducted by someone in your department. And I'm going to find out who. The cafe tension was palpable. Other customers had stopped pretending they weren't listening. Thompson stepped back. The girls are clearly safe. Nothing more to investigate here today. How convenient, James muttered, but Rachel touched his arm lightly. Agent Thompson, Rachel said, attorney voice firmly in place. I'll need the protocol number for this call, the investigating officer's name, and copies of all reports from previous visits to Mr. Mitchell's residence. Can you provide that now, or do you prefer I request it formally through court? Thompson visibly hesitated. That needs to be requested through appropriate channels. Perfect. I expect the documents by Monday. Rachel handed her business card. Mitchell and Associates, Civil Rights Department. I'm sure you know our track record with discrimination cases in social services. The agent took the card, eyes widening slightly as she read. She clearly recognized the firm, famous for winning multiple lawsuits against social services for discriminatory practices. After Thompson left, James turned to Rachel. They looked at each other for a long moment, and then, surprisingly, he smiled. A tired but genuine smile. This wasn't exactly the first date I planned, he said. I imagine not. Rachel looked at the twins, watching anxiously. But your daughters are incredible. Daddy, Maya said, pulling his hand. Miss Rachel is even cooler than Aunt Lauren said. She faced the mean lady, Sophie added with admiration. James looked at Rachel with something like gratitude mixed with desperation. I didn't want to involve you in this. Lauren said you were amazing, but this is a lot for a first date. Actually, Rachel said slowly, her mind already working, I think I need to know exactly what's happening. Because if what I'm thinking is right, this is bigger than harassment. This is false case construction. James nodded slowly. You have time now? Because this story is long and ugly. I have all the time in the world. Rachel grabbed her purse. But first, have you eaten? I bet these strategists here, she gestured to the twins, didn't have time for proper dinner. Pizza. Maya and Sophie shouted in unison. As they left the cafe, Rachel couldn't ignore the feeling she'd just entered something far more complicated and dangerous than a simple blind date. But looking at James, at his daughters holding his hand with absolute trust, and at the determination in her own reflection in the window, she knew there was no choice. Some battles you choose. Others choose you. And when two 7-year-old girls choose you as the person who can help save their family, you don't say no. If this story is touching your heart and you want to see how a blind date turned into a battle for justice, don't forget to subscribe, because what comes next will make you question everything you think you know about the system that's supposed to protect children. The pizza place was nearly empty, just a few late diners scattered across red vinyl booths. James chose a corner table where he could see both exits, a habit Rachel recognized from her own work with clients who'd learned to always watch for threats. Maya and Sophie attacked their pepperoni slices with a focused intensity of genuinely hungry children, while James pulled a thick folder from his briefcase. The kind of folder someone keeps when they know they're being hunted. It started 4 months ago, James began, his voice low. Right after I won the Dawson case. Rachel knew that case. Everyone in civil rights circles did. Marcus Dawson, a black teenager facing 20 years for a crime he didn't commit, freed after James proved police had fabricated evidence. The lead detective, Michael Brennan, was facing criminal charges now. His career destroyed. Brennan's wife works for Child Protective Services, Rachel said slowly, pieces clicking together. Deputy Director Sandra Brennan. James opened the folder, revealing a photo of a severe-looking woman in her 40s, blonde hair pulled back tight, cold blue eyes staring at the camera. She was at her husband's hearing. Sat in the back. Never took her eyes off me and the girls. He spread documents across the table. Anonymous complaints, investigation reports, photographs of his house taken from the street. Someone had been building a file, methodically and deliberately. First visit was 2 days after Brennan's indictment. James pointed to a report dated 3 months ago. Anonymous call claiming my daughters were seen unsupervised at a park. I was there the whole time, sitting on a bench 20 feet away. But the report says I was absent and neglectful. They're lying in official documents, Rachel said, anger rising. Second visit, someone reported my house was unsanitary and dangerous. Look at the photos they took. He slid images across. Rachel saw a normal, lived-in home. Toys in the living room, dishes in the sink, a laundry basket on the couch. Nothing remotely dangerous or neglectful. The agent Thompson wrote that the home showed signs of parental overwhelm and inability to maintain basic standards. James's jaw clenched. Those dishes were from breakfast that morning. The laundry was clean, I just hadn't folded it yet because I had court. Sophie stopped eating, her small face troubled. Daddy always folds our clothes before bed. He sings while he does it. The third visit was last week, James continued. This time they claimed a teacher reported concerns about the girls' emotional well-being. I called the school. No teacher made any report. Rachel examined the documents, her trained eye catching inconsistencies. Different handwriting on forms that should have been typed. Dates that didn't align. Photos taken at angles designed to make normal mess look like chaos. They're manufacturing evidence for removal, she said, the words tasting bitter. That's what I think. If they can document enough incidents, they can petition for emergency custody, claim pattern of neglect. James's hands trembled slightly as he gathered the papers. And once kids enter the system, especially black kids, getting them back is. He didn't finish. He didn't need to. Rachel had seen the statistics. Black children were removed from homes at twice the rate of white children, often for subjective reasons like inadequate housing or parental stress. And once removed, reunification was slow, difficult, sometimes impossible. Why you specifically? Rachel asked. I mean beyond revenge for the Dawson case. James hesitated, glancing at his daughters. Maya had stopped eating too, watching her father with worried eyes that seemed far too old for 7 years. Daddy's cases make people angry, Maya said quietly. We heard him talking to Aunt Lauren. He said some people think he's making trouble. I specialize in police misconduct cases, James explained. Last year alone, I got 3 brutality cases dismissed, 2 wrongful arrest settlements, and the Dawson exoneration. I'm not popular with the department. And Sandra Brennan has connections throughout the system, Rachel added, understanding dawning. She can mobilize CPS, influence investigations, create documentation that looks legitimate. She sent me a message last month. James pulled out his phone, showing a text from an unknown number. After the second visit. It just said, "You destroyed my family. Now I'll destroy yours." Rachel felt cold rage settle in her chest. You kept this. I keep everything now. Every text, every email, every interaction. I record conversations when I can legally do it. I document everything with the girls, every meal, every bedtime, every school event I attend. He looked exhausted. I'm living like I'm already in court, already defending myself against charges that don't exist yet. Daddy's tired all the time now, Sophie whispered. He doesn't sleep much anymore. James reached over to squeeze his daughter's hand. I'm okay, sweetheart. But he wasn't, Rachel could see that. He was a man fighting an invisible war, trying to protect his children from a system designed to protect children, weaponized by someone with power and a vendetta. There's something else, James said, voice dropping even lower. I've been hearing things. Other lawyers, other families. I'm not the only one. Rachel leaned forward. What do you mean? 3 other black families in the county, all targeted in the last 6 months. All with similar patterns: anonymous complaints, surprise visits, documentation of minor issues blown out of proportion. One family, the Johnsons, had their son removed 2 months ago. He's still in foster care. Let me guess, Rachel said. All families connected to someone who challenged the system? Police, courts, administration. James nodded. Marcus Johnson's father filed a discrimination lawsuit against the police department. The Reeves family's mother is a journalist who wrote articles about racial profiling. The Garcias, their oldest daughter, testified in a police brutality case. It's systematic retaliation, Rachel breathed. Using CPS as a weapon. And it's working. The Johnson family dropped their lawsuit to focus on getting their son back. The journalist stopped writing about police issues. People are terrified. Rachel looked at the documents spread across the table, at the scared little girls trying to be brave, at the exhausted father who'd come to a blind date hoping for something normal and instead found himself explaining how his life was being systematically dismantled. Today's cafe incident, Rachel said slowly. That wasn't random either, was it? I think they're watching me. Following me. They knew I had plans today, knew the girls would be there, knew it would look suspicious with you. James ran a hand over his face. They're trying to isolate me. Make it look like I'm unstable, paranoid, a danger to my own children. Daddy's not dangerous, Maya said fiercely, tears in her eyes. He's the best daddy in the whole world. I know he is, sweetheart, Rachel said gently. Then to James, they made a mistake today. What do you mean? They called in a false report in front of witnesses. They documented an incident that provably didn't happen. And they did it to a family who just happened to be meeting with a civil rights attorney who specializes in exactly this kind of case. Rachel smiled, and it wasn't kind. Sandra Brennan got arrogant. She thought she was untouchable. But arrogance leaves trails. James looked at her with something like hope flickering in his exhausted eyes. You think we can fight this? I think we can do more than fight it. I think we can expose it. Rachel gathered the documents. But I need you to trust me. And I need you to understand this is going to get worse before it gets better. They're going to escalate. How much worse? Rachel met his eyes steadily. They might try to take the girls. Soon. Before we can build a case. Emergency removal based on immediate danger. The blood drained from James's face. Sophie started crying quietly, and Maya wrapped her arms around her sister. But here's what they don't know, Rachel continued, voice firm. I've been waiting for a case like this. A case big enough to break open the whole system. And you, James Mitchell, you just became that case. She pulled out her own phone, typing rapidly. I'm calling my firm's investigator. By tomorrow morning, we'll have surveillance on your house, documentation of anyone watching you, and a forensic analysis of every CPS document they filed. We're going to prove this is targeted harassment, prove Sandra Brennan is abusing her position, and we're going to make sure everyone knows about it. Rachel, James said quietly. If you do this, if you take this on, they'll come after you too. Let them try, Rachel said coldly. I didn't spend 5 years fighting corrupt systems just to back down when it gets personal. Besides, she looked at Maya and Sophie, I made a promise to 2 very brave girls. And I keep my promises. Maya wiped her tears and managed a small smile. Are you gonna save us, Miss Rachel? No, honey, Rachel said softly. Your daddy's been saving you all along. I'm just going to make sure everyone knows the truth about what's really happening. And when I'm done, the people trying to hurt your family are going to wish they'd never heard the name Mitchell. Outside the pizza place, through the window, Rachel saw a car parked across the street. No lights, engine running, someone sitting in the driver's seat watching them. James, she said quietly. Don't look now, but gray sedan, 11 o'clock. How long has it been there? He glanced casually, then his face went hard. It followed us from the cafe. I thought I was being paranoid. You're not paranoid if they're really watching you. Rachel took photos discreetly. Good. More evidence. Let them watch. Let them report back to Brennan that you're not alone anymore. That's exactly what I want them to know. Rachel's investigator, Marcus Chun, was already at James's house when they arrived. He'd installed 3 discrete cameras by the time they pulled into the driveway, positioned to capture anyone approaching or watching the property. Gray sedan drove past twice while I was working, Marcus reported, showing footage on his tablet. License plate registered to a private investigation firm that does contract work for the county. They're not even hiding it anymore, James said bitterly. Good, Rachel replied. Arrogance creates mistakes. Over the next week, Rachel built her case with surgical precision. Her paralegal, Diana, pulled every CPS report filed in the county for the past year, cross-referencing families with pending legal actions against the police department. The pattern was unmistakable: 15 families total, all minorities, all connected to challenges against law enforcement. It's a retaliation pipeline, Diana said during their strategy meeting. Brennan identifies targets, CPS opens investigations, families get scared and back down. Rachel's phone buzzed. James texting, Thompson just showed up. Unannounced inspection. 4th visit. I'm coming now, Rachel typed back. Don't let her in without me there. You have that right. She arrived 20 minutes later to find Thompson on the doorstep, another agent beside her, both looking annoyed. Mr. Mitchell is refusing to cooperate with a welfare check, Thompson said coldly. Mr. Mitchell is exercising his legal rights, Rachel corrected. You need a warrant for entry without consent. You don't have one. So unless you're claiming immediate danger requiring emergency intervention, you need to leave. We have reason to believe. Documented where? In what report? Filed by whom? Rachel stepped closer. Because I've reviewed every single report you've filed on this family, Agent Thompson. And I found some interesting inconsistencies. Dates that don't match. Photos with metadata showing they were taken on different days than reported. Would you like to explain that? Thompson's face went rigid. Are you accusing me of falsifying reports? I'm saying your reports contain provable errors. Whether that's incompetence or something more deliberate, well, that's what discovery will determine. The second agent, younger, shifted uncomfortably. Maybe we should come back with. We'll be filing a formal complaint with your supervisor, Thompson cut him off. Mr. Mitchell's hostile behavior and refusal to cooperate will be noted. Note away, Rachel said. And I'll note that you attempted unlawful entry after being clearly informed of legal representation. My camera's been recording since I arrived. After they left, James collapsed on his couch, Maya and Sophie clinging to him. They're not stopping, he said. No, Rachel agreed. They're escalating. Which means we're getting close to something. That night, Rachel met with her mentor, Judge Patricia Winters, retired but still connected to every power structure in the county. They sat in Patricia's study, surrounded by law books and 40 years of legal wisdom. Sandra Brennan, Patricia said thoughtfully. I remember when she started at CPS. Competent, dedicated. But after her husband's troubles began, something changed. She's been untouchable though. Deputy director position, excellent reviews, no complaints on record. Because anyone who complains gets targeted harder, Rachel said. Patricia studied her. You're going after her directly. I'm going after the entire system she's corrupted. That's dangerous, Rachel. She has allies. The police union, county administration, even some judges. Then they can all go down together. Rachel leaned forward. Patricia, there are 15 families. 15. Children traumatized, parents terrified, lives destroyed. All because they dared to challenge police misconduct. This isn't just about James Mitchell anymore. Patricia was quiet for a long moment. What do you need? Access. Names. Someone on the inside willing to talk. I might know someone. Young caseworker, transferred to Brennan's division 6 months ago. She's been asking questions, seems troubled by what she's seeing. Patricia wrote a name on paper. Teresa Rodriguez. Approach carefully. 2 days later, Rachel sat across from Teresa Rodriguez in a coffee shop 3 towns over. Teresa was mid-20s, exhausted, scared. I can't prove anything, Teresa said immediately. It's all subtle. Cases assigned to certain workers, reports edited before submission, pressure to find problems where there aren't any. The Mitchell case, Rachel prompted. Teresa nodded. Brennan handles that one personally. She reviews every report before it's filed, adds details that weren't in the original notes. When I questioned a discrepancy, she said I was inexperienced, didn't understand proper documentation. Would you testify to that? And lose my job? Get blacklisted? Teresa's hands shook around her coffee cup. I have student loans, rent, I can't. What if I could protect you? Whistleblower status, legal representation, maybe even a settlement. Teresa looked torn. There's something else. A list. I saw it on Brennan's desk once. Names and case numbers. The Mitchell family was on it, but so were others. All marked with red flags. Could you identify those families? Maybe. If I saw the names again. Rachel showed her the list Diana had compiled. Teresa went pale, pointing to 12 of the 15 families. These. All red flagged. All cases Brennan personally oversees. Teresa, this is evidence of systematic targeting. This could end it. Not just for the Mitchells, for everyone. The young woman was silent for a long time. Finally, if I do this, if I testify, you have to promise me something. Those kids, the ones already in foster care, you get them home. I promise. Back at her office, Rachel assembled her team. Diana, Marcus, 2 junior attorneys, and a media contact she trusted. We file a federal civil rights lawsuit, Rachel announced. Not just against CPS, but against Sandra Brennan personally, the police union that's protecting her husband, and the county administration that's enabled this retaliation system. That's a massive case, one junior attorney said nervously. The resources alone will be worth it when we win. Rachel spread documents across the conference table. We have the pattern. We have testimony from Teresa Rodriguez. We have documentation of falsified reports. We have evidence of surveillance and harassment. And we have 15 families who deserve justice. Brennan will come after us, Diana warned. She already is. Rachel showed them surveillance photos Marcus had captured, someone photographing her office, following her car, running background checks on her staff. She knows we're building something. So we move fast, hit hard, and go public before she can shut us down. When do we file? Monday. Which gives us 3 days to prepare for the counterattack. That Saturday, James brought the girls to Rachel's office. They'd been working on something secret, Meyer explained excitedly. Sophie carried a carefully wrapped package. Inside were drawings. Dozens of them. Maya and Sophie had drawn pictures of their life with their father. Breakfast together, bedtime stories, helping with laundry, building a treehouse, playing at the park. Each picture dated and labeled in careful 7-year-old handwriting. We wanted to show the truth, Maya said seriously. About our daddy. Rachel felt tears prick her eyes. These are perfect. Can we use them? The girls nodded eagerly. James looked at Rachel with overwhelming gratitude. Whatever happens, thank you. For believing us. For fighting. It's not over yet, Rachel warned. Monday, when we file, all hell is going to break loose. Brennan will escalate. They might try to grab the girls before court. I'm ready. James's jaw set with determination. We're ready. Rachel looked at this family, this father and his fierce daughters, and felt something solidify in her chest. This wasn't just a case anymore. This was personal. Then let's finish this. She pulled out the lawsuit documents, thick and damning. By Monday afternoon, everyone in this county is going to know exactly what Sandra Brennan has been doing. And by the time we're done, she's going to wish she'd never heard the name Mitchell. Outside, across the street, a gray sedan sat watching. Inside, someone took photos and made a phone call. The trap was set. Now they just had to survive what came next. Monday morning, 8:47 a.m. Rachel filed the federal lawsuit in a packed courthouse, media already waiting outside. The 89-page complaint detailed everything: systematic retaliation, falsified reports, targeted harassment of 15 families, Sandra Brennan named personally along with CPS administration. By 9:15, her phone exploded with calls. By 9:30, the story was on every local news channel. By 10 o'clock, Sandra Brennan made her move. Emergency custody petition filed for Maya and Sophie Mitchell. Diana burst into Rachel's office, breathless. Judge Morrison approved it. Police are executing removal now. Rachel's blood went cold. Morrison? He's Brennan's brother-in-law. Get me James now. She was already running to her car when James answered, his voice tight with panic. They're here. 4 police officers, 2 CPS agents. Thompson is demanding I hand over the girls. Do not resist physically. Stay calm. I'm 10 minutes away. Put me on speaker. Rachel heard chaos through the phone, Maya crying, Sophie screaming don't take us. James trying desperately to keep his voice steady while demanding to see the court order. Mr. Mitchell, you're interfering with a lawful custody order, Thompson's voice came through, sharp with triumph. Step aside or you'll be arrested. This is Rachel Morrison, attorney of record, Rachel shouted into the phone. That petition was filed with a biased judge who should have recused himself. I'm filing an emergency stay right now. Your stay isn't approved yet, Thompson replied coldly. We're taking the children into protective custody for their immediate safety. Immediate safety from what? Documented where? New evidence came to light this morning. The father's unstable mental state, paranoid delusions, potential danger to the minors. Rachel's hands tightened on the steering wheel. They'd anticipated the lawsuit and prepared their counterstrike. Frame James as mentally unstable, remove the children in the chaos, make him look like the dangerous one. Don't you dare take my daughters. James's voice cracked with anguish. Rachel ran 2 red lights, her junior attorney already filing emergency motions on her laptop in the passenger seat. She called her media contact, get cameras to James Mitchell's house now. Live coverage. They're removing children based on a corrupt petition. She arrived to a nightmare scene. News vans were already pulling up, cameras capturing police officers physically separating screaming 7-year-old girls from their father. Maya was being carried by one officer, Sophie by another, both children hysterical, reaching for James who stood on his porch, hands raised, face devastated, knowing if he moved he'd be arrested and lose them completely. Rachel jumped from her car, attorney badge held high. Stop. I have an emergency stay. Not approved yet, Thompson said, cold satisfaction in her eyes. Then approve it now. The voice came from behind them. Judge Patricia Winters stood there, retired but still commanding absolute authority. Behind her, 2 other judges Rachel recognized, Judge Anderson and Judge Liu, both with reputations for integrity. Patricia, you have no jurisdiction here, Thompson began. But I do, Judge Anderson said, holding up his phone. I just signed an emergency stay. Release those children immediately. Thompson's face went white. Judge Morrison approved. Judge Morrison is recused effective immediately, Judge Liu cut in. I've already filed the motion. His relationship to Sandra Brennan represents clear conflict of interest. The police officers looked confused, unsure who to obey. Rachel stepped forward, voice carrying to every camera now recording. Those children are being removed based on falsified reports filed by Deputy Director Sandra Brennan in retaliation for their father's legal work exposing police corruption. The petition was approved by her brother-in-law. This isn't child protection. This is kidnapping under color of law. That's defamation. Thompson snapped. It's documented fact. Rachel held up a tablet, turning it so cameras could see. Teresa Rodriguez, CPS caseworker, swore an affidavit this morning detailing systematic falsification of reports under Director Brennan's orders. 15 families targeted. Children used as weapons against parents who challenged police misconduct. A murmur went through the growing crowd. Rachel saw Thompson's confidence crack. Furthermore, Rachel continued, we have evidence that Director Brennan sent threatening text messages to Mr. Mitchell, promising to destroy his family in retaliation for his defense of Marcus Dawson. We have surveillance footage of investigators she hired illegally following this family. We have metadata proving reports were falsified. And we have testimony from 12 other families subjected to identical harassment. "You're lying," Thompson said, but her voice wavered. "Am I?" Rachel nodded to Marcus, who stepped forward with a laptop. "We've also been investigating Director Brennan's finances. Interesting discovery. She's received over $200,000 in payments from a legal defense fund associated with the police union over the past 18 months. Money that coincidentally started flowing right when her husband's legal troubles began." Thompson actually stepped backward. "That's not, you can't prove." "Bank records don't lie, Agent Thompson. Unlike your reports." Rachel's voice turned to ice. "How many of those falsified reports did you personally file? How many families did you terrorize under Brennan's orders? How many children did you traumatize?" Thompson looked at the cameras, at the judges, at the police officers now hesitating with crying children still in their arms. "I was following orders." "That defense didn't work at Nuremberg," Judge Winters said dryly. "It won't work here. Officers, release those children to their father immediately." Maya and Sophie were set down. They ran to James, who collapsed to his knees, wrapping his daughters in his arms, all three of them sobbing. Rachel felt her throat tighten but kept her professional mask in place. A black SUV pulled up abruptly. Sandra Brennan emerged, perfectly composed, expensive suit, cold eyes sweeping the scene. She took in the cameras, the judges, Rachel holding evidence on a tablet, and her expression barely flickered. "This is quite a circus, Ms. Morrison," Brennan said smoothly. "Based on allegations from one disgruntled employee and circumstantial evidence." "3 employees," Rachel corrected. "Teresa Rodriguez wasn't alone. 2 other caseworkers came forward this morning after our lawsuit went public. All willing to testify about your orders to falsify reports, target specific families, and use children as leverage." Brennan's composure cracked slightly. "They're lying to save their jobs. They're cooperating to save their souls." Rachel stepped closer. "You used your position to weaponize Child Protective Services. You terrorized 15 families, removed children from loving homes, destroyed lives, all to punish people who dared challenge police corruption. You turned an agency meant to protect children into your personal revenge machine. You can't prove any of this." "Actually, I can." Rachel pulled up an audio file on her tablet. "You called Agent Thompson yesterday. Unfortunately for you, she was wearing a wire. We have you explicitly ordering her to take those Mitchell brats today, make it messy, make him look unstable." The blood drained from Brennan's face as her own voice played through the speaker, cold and vindictive, giving exact orders to fabricate evidence of James's mental instability. "That recording is illegal," Brennan said desperately. "Thompson's attorney obtained it legally when she agreed to cooperate this morning," Rachel said. "Turns out she's not interested in going to prison for your vendetta. Neither are the other agents you coerced. They're all talking now, Sandra. Every falsified report, every illegal surveillance operation, every threatened family. It's all coming out." Brennan looked around wildly, seeing her empire crumbling. News cameras caught everything: her panic, her guilt, her absolute defeat. "You destroyed my husband's career," Brennan hissed at James. "Your husband destroyed his own career by planting evidence on innocent people," James said quietly, standing now, daughters clutched against him. "I just exposed the truth. Just like Ms. Morrison is exposing yours." Police officers approached Brennan, not the same ones who tried to take the children, but detectives. "Sandra Brennan, you're under arrest for abuse of authority, conspiracy to file false reports, and deprivation of civil rights under color of law." As they led her away in handcuffs, cameras flashing, Rachel finally allowed herself to breathe. Around her, the 15 families her investigation had identified were arriving, drawn by news coverage, hope dawning on exhausted faces. Judge Anderson approached Rachel. "You just took down one of the most connected people in this county." "She took herself down," Rachel said. "I just made sure everyone saw it happen." 6 months later, Rachel stood in the same courthouse where it all began, watching Judge Anderson deliver the final ruling in Mitchell v. Brennan and County Social Services. The court finds systematic abuse of authority, deliberate falsification of records, and targeted retaliation against families exercising their constitutional rights, Anderson announced. The county will pay $15 million in damages, divided among the 15 affected families. Sandra Brennan is permanently barred from any position involving child welfare and faces criminal charges. Furthermore, this court orders comprehensive reform of CPS protocols and external oversight. In the gallery, James sat with Maya and Sophie, both girls wearing their best dresses, holding their father's hands. Rachel caught his eye and saw something that had been missing 6 months ago: peace. The aftermath had been swift and brutal for Brennan's network. Thompson accepted a plea deal, testimony leading to indictments of 3 other agents and 2 supervisors. The police union president resigned after the financial connections were exposed. Judge Morrison was censured and removed from family court permanently. But the real victory was quieter, more personal. The Johnson family got their son back within a week of Brennan's arrest. Rachel watched 10-year-old Marcus Johnson reunite with his parents, the boy's tears of joy making every sleepless night worth it. The Reeves family, the Garcias, all 13 families with children in foster care were reunified within 2 months once the falsified reports were exposed. Teresa Rodriguez became the interim deputy director, implementing reforms that included mandatory recording of all home visits, independent review of removal petitions, and a whistleblower protection system. Outside the courthouse, media waited, but Rachel let James speak first. 6 months ago, someone tried to destroy my family because I did my job defending innocent people, James said, daughters flanking him. They used the system meant to protect children as a weapon. But they underestimated 3 things: how much I love my daughters, how brave those daughters are, and how one attorney refused to look away. He glanced at Rachel, standing beside him. Rachel Morrison could have walked away from a complicated first date. Instead, she walked toward the fight. Because of her, 15 families have their children back. Because of her, this can't happen again. Maya tugged Rachel's sleeve. "Tell them the important part, Miss Rachel." Rachel smiled, kneeling to the girl's level. "What's the important part, sweetheart?" "That people who do bad things always think they'll win. But they forget that good people are braver." Sophie nodded seriously. "And that families are stronger than mean people think." Rachel stood, addressing the cameras. Sandra Brennan thought her position made her untouchable. She thought terrorizing families would make them too scared to fight back. She was wrong. The parents she targeted weren't criminals or neglectful. They were people who dared to demand justice, and she punished them for it. This case proves something crucial: institutional power without accountability becomes institutional abuse. When people in authority believe they're above consequences, they become the danger they claim to protect against. A reporter called out, "What happens to Brennan now?" "She faces federal charges carrying up to 15 years, Rachel answered. "Her legal career is over. Her reputation destroyed. And most importantly, she'll never have power over vulnerable families again." Was it worth it? Taking on the entire system? Rachel looked at James and his daughters, at the other families gathered behind them, at the children who'd been returned to loving homes. Every single second. 3 months later, on a Saturday morning that felt like the first one in years without the weight of impending crisis, Rachel sat in James's kitchen watching him make star-shaped pancakes while Maya and Sophie set the table. The blind date they'd attempted 9 months ago had transformed into something neither expected: a partnership forged in crisis, deepened by shared purpose, and evolving now into something more. "You know," James said, flipping a pancake, "I never properly thanked you for not running away when my daughters ambushed you in a coffee shop." "Best ambush of my life," Rachel replied, accepting the coffee Sophie carefully brought her. "Miss Rachel," Maya asked, "are you going to be here for pancakes every Saturday now?" Rachel met James's eyes over the stove. They'd taken it slow, letting trust build naturally after the chaos, but somewhere between legal strategy sessions and celebrating the family's reunifications, friendship had shifted into something deeper. "I hope so," Rachel said softly. James smiled, that exhausted weight finally lifted from his shoulders. "The guest room is already set up as an office. You know, in case you need somewhere closer to work on those late-night cases." "Very practical," Rachel teased. "Daddy," Sophie said with 7-year-old wisdom, "that's not how you ask someone to move in." The adults laughed, and in that moment, surrounded by pancake batter and morning sunlight and 2 girls who'd orchestrated this whole thing with their brave coffee shop intervention, Rachel understood something profound. Sometimes the most important cases aren't won in courtrooms. They're won in the quiet moments after the battle, when families heal, when trust is rebuilt, when people who've been hurt by systems designed to help them finally feel safe again. The Mitchell family got their life back. But so did 14 others. Children who'd been torn from homes returned to their parents' arms. Families who'd been terrorized by false accusations finally vindicated. A corrupt system exposed and reformed. Sandra Brennan had tried to use her power to destroy people who challenged injustice. Instead, she'd catalyzed her own destruction and created systematic change that would protect thousands of families in the future. 6 years later, Rachel Morrison Mitchell stood in that same coffee shop, now holding a 2-year-old on her hip while 13-year-old Maya and Sophie argued over whether chocolate chip or blueberry pancakes were superior. James came in from parking, kissing his wife's cheek before ruffling his daughter's hair. Same table. Always, Rachel said. They sat at the corner table where it all began, where 2 brave little girls had walked in and changed everything. The coffee shop had a small plaque now, installed after Rachel's firm won a national award for the Brennan case, where courage begins with small voices speaking truth. Maya noticed Rachel looking at it. You got all sappy again, didn't you? Can't help it, Rachel admitted. This place reminds me that the best things in life come from the moments we almost walk away from. You didn't walk away, Sophie said simply. You stayed. That's what heroes do. No, sweetheart, Rachel corrected gently. Your father is the hero. He protected you when a system failed. He fought when fighting seemed impossible. I just made sure people knew about it. James squeezed her hand. We both know that's not true. Their son Daniel grabbed a sugar packet, and Rachel gently redirected him while thinking about all the families she'd helped since that case, all the children reunited with parents, all the corrupt officials held accountable. The Brennan case had ended careers and changed laws. But more than that, it proved something essential. That ordinary people facing institutional power can win if they're brave enough to stand together and refuse to be silenced. Sometimes justice takes years. Sometimes it requires risking everything. But when you're fighting for families, for children, for the fundamental right to be treated fairly regardless of who you challenge or what you expose, the fight is always worth it. Sandra Brennan served 7 years in federal prison before being released last month. Her power gone, her reputation destroyed, her warning to others clear: abuse authority, and eventually accountability finds you. Maya looked up from her menu. Miss Rachel, when I grow up, I want to be a lawyer like you and Daddy. Me too, Sophie added. We're going to help families stay together. Rachel felt tears prick her eyes. These girls who'd been weaponized, traumatized, nearly destroyed by a corrupt system, now wanted to dedicate their lives to fixing it. Then you'll be amazing at it, Rachel said. Because you already know the most important thing, that families are worth fighting for, and courage starts with refusing to accept injustice, no matter how powerful the people committing it. James raised his coffee cup. To blind dates that change everything. Rachel clinked her cup against his. And to little girls brave enough to rescue them. If this story moved you, if it made you think about the systems we trust and the people we empower, subscribe to see more stories about ordinary people refusing to accept injustice. Because the truth is simple, the best revenge isn't destroying your enemies. It's building something better than they could ever imagine, and making sure they can never hurt anyone again.